I just felt stuck when I
Yeah.
was in the first few years of my corporate career. So that was a big thing. Second was a sudden pass of my uncle. I've known him for many years. He's really, really close to my parents. And it was a death that is closer to me and really hit me.
Welcome to an episode of Be Queens. We interview Asian American women, CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs who built businesses from the ground up. We hope their ability to bring their vision to life inspires listeners to also realize their dreams, whether in business or elsewhere. I'm so excited to speak to Natalie Ma today. So many of us start our days with a cup of coffee, but aren't sure how to pick the best beans or brew the best cup for them. In April of 2023, Natalie launched Hooked Coffee, a subscription platform for craft coffee. Hooked Coffee connects curious coffee drinkers to specialty roasters by curating a high-quality, diverse selection of coffee suited for anywhere they are in their coffee journey. Hi, Natalie. Welcome to Be Queens.
Hi, it's super exciting to be here.
I'm glad we got connected through Serena, our co-producer. Very excited to dig into your story. I do drink a cup of black coffee every morning to start my day, so I'm definitely in your target customer segment.
Yeah, definitely. I think our goal is to have more people try more roasters, and the best way is to use the type of coffee format we have. So happy to share more about our business, and also love to share more about my experience and my background and how I got to where I am right now in my journey.
Awesome. So I do want to dig into the first section of our podcast, which is learning more about your life story. But before we do that, I'm curious, how many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
Wow. It really varies, but I would say 2 to 3 cups. I try to limit myself as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I joke with my partner that we are caffeine heavyweights.
Yeah. Have you developed a big tolerance to caffeine at this point?
Definitely. In the beginning, we were tasting 5 to 6 cups a day to make sure we were picking the best beans.
Right.
So it was a lot of coffee in the beginning.
Yeah, I can only imagine. You'd have to become like those wine connoisseurs who taste it and then spit it into a bucket or something.
Spit it out.
Yeah. I'd love to dig more into your life story and how you grew up influenced some of the decisions you've made later in life. So we'll start out with your childhood. What was your childhood like?
I grew up in Hong Kong until I was around 13 years old. And my parents sent me to boarding school for high school. So I was in England for around 5 years to 18 years old. And because my dad actually went to school in America when he was young, he influenced my idea to go to college in America. So I ended up coming to UC Berkeley when I was around 18 years old, and I stayed in California ever since. After I graduated, I went into finance and then tech, and just fast forward a few years now, I have my own coffee business.
Awesome. Sounds like a really international family. Let's dig into boarding school. What was boarding school like?
It was a really fun, but also interesting experience because I was really young. We were teenagers, didn't really know what was happening. We were at that stage where we're still developing, so made a lot of close friends there, but also I grew a lot. I learned to be independent. I had to adapt to different environments and different circumstances. It was also an all-girls school. So
okay.
we had to be careful not to be bullied, make sure that we stand our ground, especially since it was mostly an all-white school. So it was like a few Asians, few Black kids. It was a really interesting experience, and I've learned a lot from it.
The prospect of leaving your home when you're 13, that alone sounds scary. Were you excited to go, or were you apprehensive? What were you feeling about going to boarding school?
It's actually funny looking back because I was the one who asked my parents to go to boarding school.
Oh, okay.
Instead of being forced to go. I think it was influenced by my friends around me, where some friends decided to go to boarding school. And I wanted to go to the same school as my friend.
Oh, so you had a friend who was also going to this school?
We wanted to go to the same school, but we ended up getting into different ones.
I see.
I think that was the main reason why I was so eager to go. I think it only really hit me until I got there on the first day and my dad was leaving me behind. And I was like, oh my God, I'm here all alone now.
Yeah, I can only relate when I went to college, so I can't even imagine at 13. But the fact that you asked to go signals to me that you did have adventurousness and curiosity, even from a young age.
Yeah, spontaneous, I would say. And yeah, I'll just go with things.
And then you touched on even at boarding school, you were a minority. You came from Hong Kong, where I imagine a lot of people look like you, and you don't even have to worry about race at that point. So, new environment, new country, now you're a minority. You mentioned that really helped you grow your independence. What are some ways that you think that has shaped you and influenced who you are today?
Yeah, so I grew up in a really nice family and I was young, so everything was done, right? For example, I didn't have to make my own bed, I didn't have to cook my own food. I had tutors.
Mm-hmm.
But when I went to boarding school, I suddenly had to learn everything by myself within
Mm-hmm.
the first few months. For example, how to do my own laundry. How can I connect with a group of people that I didn't know at all?
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot of learnings right away and in a really short amount of time. To your point, we were so young, there was no concept of race, we are minority. I didn't understand what that was.
Mm-hmm.
So a very good example was I was eating instant noodles and they didn't know what an instant noodle was. So when they saw it, they're like, ew, what are you eating? And we were all young. We didn't know what we were saying actually mattered a lot to the other person.
Right.
So that was when I realized if I don't stand up for myself, they will bully me.
Mm-hmm.
So I just sweared at them and they just left. There's just small things like that that I remember, but I think they really stuck with me.
Got it. Okay. I feel like that can go either way. As a kid, that can make you feel smaller and retract back. But I could see a little bit of the spark and that forthrightness,
Yep, the
whatever
self.
you had to do to stand up for yourself. Yeah, that's awesome. Even though you were away from your family, I'm sure in those 13 years that you were home and just throughout your life, your family had also instilled certain values in you. So curious, in addition to this sense of independence and really becoming assertive through boarding school, what were some of the familial
Mhm.
values that were instilled in you by your parents or your family around you?
Right. My parents definitely had a big influence on how I made my decisions in life and what I chose as my career path. My mom has been an entrepreneur since a very young age. So she taught me a lot about business, how to interact with people, how making mistakes is okay, how it's important to just try. That has always stuck with me throughout my whole career and my whole journey.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, it's interesting because there is a lot of success in my family and also the people I'm surrounded with. So naturally, there was a part of me that was afraid of failure. I wanted to make sure I was successful, and that made me choose careers like a very safe path, like finance in the beginning, when I wasn't quite sure what to do. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh, that looks amazing on my resume. That's what success is. So I think it's interesting where there are very traditional values and a path to success, but at the same time, my family is also very open minded when
Mm-hmm.
I made certain decisions in my life. For example, I first went into finance and asset management for 2 years, and then I pivoted into business operations later on in tech. And throughout the whole journey, when I was pivoting, when I was trying to find myself, my parents were very supportive. And even when I told them one day, hey, I'm actually quitting my job to do coffee, they were shocked. But I remember my mom telling me, yeah, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
If you fail, don't be sad because this is just the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey if this is for you. And if this doesn't work out, you can always go back to a corporate career. I already thought that, but hearing that from my parents was very assuring
Mm-hmm.
and it gave me the confidence to just go for it.
That's awesome. Your mom really sounds like a cheerleader in all of your entrepreneurial pursuits.
She has been very supportive this whole time.
You mentioned she also instilled that lesson in you even when you were young, or maybe she showed it through example. What were some ways that that came through even before launching your own business?
She made sure that I tried a lot of things when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom saw our strengths and catered hobbies or extracurriculars to my sister and I. For example, we were very different people. My sister is a professional, she's a perfectionist. So she ended up really honing in a few things that she was really good at. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, I'm more all-rounded. I am spontaneous. I like to do a lot of different things. I get bored very easily.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom just went with the flow and let me do whatever I wanted to. Like basketball, tennis, the guitar, the piano, the drums. So I would just do so many different things. And I
Yeah.
think that allowed me to keep an open mind and know that as long as I learn and train for it, anything is achievable. So it wasn't really directly correlated to like business, but it's more like training that mindset and to know that you just have to do it.
I could totally see how trying those different extracurriculars, it's more about really emphasizing to just try and getting over having a fear of failure. That seems like such a great muscle to learn early on. And I'm sure it comes in handy as you're continuing to run your business.
It's funny because a lot of these things I didn't realize how much it would impact my life now. But just looking back, I realized, oh, these are actually contributing factors to who I am today.
Yeah, for sure. I think one other interesting thing you mentioned was that because a lot of people were successful in your family, that actually set this bar for you that was a little bit intimidating and led you to safer routes at first.
Yeah, definitely. I think, especially when you first graduate or even when you're in college, you don't really know what you want to do. So I chose paths that I think my parents or my peers will be happy about.
Right.
So, for example, choosing math in college, I really didn't have to do that. Going into finance because I just don't really know what I wanted.
Hmm.
But I'm super lucky to have all this opportunity. And I think through doing it, I realized what I didn't like and what I liked. And I just continued to learn and continue to get new skills
Hmm.
and pivoting from finance to tech. And after a while, still not feeling happy, that really made me question myself and dig deeper into myself and figure out what actually makes me fulfilled and what do I want in life and what's my priorities.
Yeah, this is a huge takeaway for people who are maybe in college or as a new grad, not really sure of what they want to do. And that question comes a lot at that point in life, but it can also continue to come up as you make transitions and try different things. As your mom said, just try things and see what you like, see what you don't like. And I feel like there's this belief in our culture that you need to know exactly what you're supposed to do, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's not about knowing, right? Sometimes it's about trying, and then you'll start to gather the data to help you make those decisions.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's different for everyone. But when I was in finance and I was working with my peers and people who were above me, and the path was so clear to the point where I didn't want it to be that clear. I
Yeah.
was like, is this it? Which I'm like privileged to be able to say this. But for me, I was like, I don't want to see myself in this position 10 years from now. So what's out there for me? And I decided to just search for that answer. And I will forever be searching for this answer. I don't think there are milestones to hit, but it's always a vision of what you want rather than, oh, this specific goal when
Yeah.
you're this age. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the journey, not the
Yeah.
destination, as they say.
Yeah. I truly believe that. I think it's very cliche, but it is very true.
All the cliches end up being true at the end of the
Yeah.
day. Yeah, I can really relate with that story because I started my career in consulting. And I remember the day that I got a promotion, I was actually really depressed because I was like, oh, I got a promotion. Oh, shoot. That means that I could totally see where my path is headed in consulting. And it was just, it didn't excite me. And that's some data to tell me, okay,
Yeah.
maybe this isn't the right path.
I have a rule of thumb. If I complain about one thing with my friend for more than 5 to 10 times, it means it's an actual issue and I need to solve for it myself.
That's a good rule of thumb. I like that a lot. So, were there any other pivotal experiences in your childhood as you grew up that led you to entrepreneurship later in life?
After college, I knew that I wanted to start something myself,
Hmm.
but at the same time, I knew I had to gain more skills. So that was always in my head, but I didn't know where to start. So there are more recent incidents that happened that really pushed me towards this entrepreneurial journey.
Hmm.
First, it was just feeling unfulfilled in my corporate career. I think I've learned a lot. Pay is always amazing when you're in corporate. There are a lot of things that I appreciated, but it was just that piece of not feeling fulfilled, which really affected me mentally
Hmm.
and affected my productivity. And I just felt stuck when I
Yeah.
was in the first few years of my corporate career. So that was a big thing. Second was a sudden pass of my uncle. I've known him for many years. He's really, really close to my parents. And it was a death that is closer to me and really hit me. And I realized,
Mm-hmm.
wow, he had amazing family, he had amazing career, and you can just be gone in a
Mm-hmm.
split second. It was a heart
Yeah.
attack. So that made me think about life and
Mm-hmm.
my decisions. And if I'm given the opportunity and I'm able to try this, why not go for it?
Yeah.
It's also a mixture of knowing that I'm still young and I don't have a lot of other priorities right now. I don't have a family. I don't have a house. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have all these other responsibilities. Now's the time to do it. Now's the time to try.
Yeah. I can imagine a sudden death of someone that's close to you being so shocking, such a heartbreaking experience. But you also took a lesson out of that, that life is short and that you need to go after the things that are in your heart that are pulling you in different directions. And it's awesome to see you doing that. You're doing that thing right now. And we'll get more into your business and how you started your business. But you also alluded earlier about going through different experiences and those first corporate jobs to help get you to a place where you know what you really want. So, how would you explain, or what do you think, at least right now, what you really want and the things that are in your heart that eventually pushed you to entrepreneurship?
I believe that getting out of your comfort zone and trying new things is a muscle. The more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
And I tell myself every day, even when I'm working on my business, because there are things that are tough, there are things that I don't really want to do, and I always focus on the why and what pushed me to do this in the very beginning. And
Yeah.
that really helps.
Yeah. I can totally imagine that. And what do you think is your why?
A long-term goal is to influence more people like me who were in the same position to
Mm-hmm.
just go for it and just to do things that they want. Especially in the Asian culture, our parents have given us the most they can.
Yeah.
And because of the values, the culture, the tradition, it's hard to just go for it and do things that you want, at
Mm-hmm.
least from talking to people. So I want to lead with success in a way to say,
Yeah.
hey, I've done it and you can do it too.
Yes. Yes.
That's like my long term goal. But
Yes. I love
obviously,
that.
still really early on in my journey.
No, but it's not even about leading by success, but I also think it's just leading by example. And your life right now is a
Mhm.
testament to that. So that's amazing. I love that. I want to learn more about how you started your business. So I know you started your business during the pandemic. And before we get into the beginnings of that, you touched on the corporate jobs that you had before. What were you doing before you started your business?
After I graduated, I went into finance. I worked at JP Morgan for 2 years in asset management. After that, I pivoted. I went to a startup where I
Mm-hmm.
was doing business operations, which was later acquired by Autodesk. So that was around COVID times when I continued on helping with integration. And in 2021, I started the side hustle with my then roommate.
Got it. So I know JP Morgan for you was like the safe path. Do you think moving
Mhm.
towards a startup was getting you a little bit closer to more of an entrepreneurial place?
Definitely. I had so much fun when I was at the startup. It was great. It was a small team. I felt the work I did had a lot more impact on the business.
Mm-hmm.
And you're able to talk to leadership teams. You're able to have that conversation, I think really helped with partly what I do today.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, getting acquired into Autodesk, we also acquired startups that were really small. So, for example, up to 50 people. It's just seeing 5 different companies integrating into one. How does this data work? How do you work cross functionally with different teams? How can you make this engine work? Suddenly, this project became so much bigger. And seeing the whole integration happen was also a really good experience for me.
Yeah, I can imagine an integration of that size with 5 different companies. That is almost like another business venture of its own because you really find the gaps between the different
Hmm.
companies. There's people dynamics that you have to think about. So there must have been a lot of just the same thinking cap that you put on to even launching a business that goes into integrating something of that size.
It's definitely a lot of growing pains
Mm-hmm.
because I got to work with different teams cross functionally, like finance, sales, marketing, a lot of other engineers because I handled the data piece. which being able to think about these things helped with my current job too, because when you start a business, you're almost a PM for yourself.
Right. Yeah.
You manage so many teams. I outsource a lot of work as well. So it's like, how can you put all the puzzle together is really interesting to me.
Yeah. A lot of crossover skills, I imagine, from fitting the puzzles together of integration to now building the puzzles together for a business from the ground up. So you started this business with your roommate. Did you guys start
Mhm.
ideating because you were like ready to start thinking about different ideas? Were you bored during the pandemic? What started the initial idea?
Definitely both. Was bored during the pandemic, was trying to do different things outside of my work. I was sewing for a little bit for fun. And then we went back to Asia end of 2020. And back then we still had to quarantine for 2 weeks when we went back. So I was in Hong Kong, she was in Taiwan, and there was no way to get coffee because we were stuck in this hotel. So we bought a lot of these coffee pouches, which was really popular in Asia.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a light bulb moment. We're like, wow, this does not exist in the States. And why is that? So we thought there was an opportunity and we wanted to test it out in America.
Mm-hmm.
So that was when we started ideating and researching, and we figured out the whole supply chain and the process from end to end within 8 months. And we launched our first side hustle business in September of 2021.
So this was all happening while you were still working your full-time job.
Yeah, so we would do our full-time job in the morning, and in the evening we will start to do all the coffee work.
And this was happening in your apartment. You guys were roommates, so you guys
Yep.
were sharing your apartment in San Francisco.
Yeah, all this conversation went on in the kitchen. We had an
Wow.
island, we just sat there and we had our laptops out and we just started calling up people, Googling, figuring out, is this even possible? Where do we even produce this? Where do we even start?
The kitchen seems like a perfect place to start for a coffee brand. What was that like hustling during the day and after work?
I think when you work on your own business or side project, it doesn't feel like work. It
Mm-hmm.
just feels like, oh, we're trying to solve something. We
Mm.
want to bring this product to the States. How do we do this? Can we produce this at home? And we realized quickly the answer is no. Because after a while, my daytime job was repetitive
Mm-hmm.
and I was pretty comfortable doing what I was doing at work.
Right.
So it wasn't challenging enough and exciting enough for me. So I
Mm-hmm.
think having this project on the side really helped. I was looking forward to it.
Yeah. And the draw of this project was that you're exploring something unknown and something new. And it sounds like that really piqued a lot of curiosity and interest and a state of flow because you said it didn't even feel like work.
Yeah, definitely. And my roommate and I are also friends outside of living together. And we just had a great working dynamic. So
Mm.
it really helped as well.
Did you guys have complementary skills?
Yes. So I am in business and she is an engineer.
Oh,
So
okay.
she's a lot more closer to the product itself. She was actually the one who brought me into the coffee world. I used to just chug caffeine in the morning. I didn't really care too much about what I was drinking. And she asked me the question about, hey, do you know where a coffee bean comes from? And that I was like, wow, I have no clue at all. I just drank this because I needed to stay awake.
It was like
And
functional for you.
it was
Not,
so functional.
yeah.
But then when I realized I drink this every single morning, why don't I want to know a little bit more about what I'm consuming? I think
Right.
that was also where we realized this single serve pour over is a great way to bring people into coffee, regardless of what stage they're at with their coffee journey. If you're like me before, treat it as a functional beverage, all the way to wanting to explore more tastes, it's a
Mm.
great way to discover craft coffee.
Yeah, and the frequency is there because once you start drinking one cup of coffee in the morning, you're drinking it every day. So there's definitely an opportunity to introduce something new somewhere along that journey. Awesome. So you guys were interested in something that you discovered in Asia. You have your business partner. You're working in your kitchen. So where did you start?
So, in the beginning, we wanted to make this at home, but we realized quickly that coffee goes stale especially if it touches oxygen.
Mhm.
So we realized instead of making this at home, we actually had to go straight to a manufacturer to do this.
What did you guys learn? Did you find a manufacturer in the States? Did you have to find someone abroad? What did you learn after going into that?
So I started doing all the calculation to figure out, hey, is this even possible? What are the quantities? What's the volume looking like? Who are we selling to? What is the idea behind this whole brand? In the beginning, we wanted to produce this in Asia because it is cheaper when it comes to a cost perspective.
Yeah.
But when our quantities are so small and we were just testing it out, we realized it doesn't make much sense. The shipping cost, normally volume's a lot higher. It was also COVID, so there was a supply chain issue as well.
Yeah.
So we decided together that it was a better decision to work with someone in the States first. So we found a manufacturer in California. We were very lucky. We still worked with them till this day. So they're a great partner to us. And they just packed from us from the beginning. Yeah, we were lucky. They were willing to grow with us. We were very transparent. We told them when we were very small, we want to test out the market, see if our idea worked. And they were willing to work with us, which was awesome.
That's great. You're able to find a manufacturer who are closer to the different source of beans that you would want to try something like this with. And so you found your manufacturer, you have the product. So who did you test it with first? Did you test it with friends around you? How did you find customers in order to like get that customer feedback?
So in the beginning, it was definitely friends and family. And we started to do events in the Bay Area just to get feedback, see what people thought about the product. Because my partner and I came from a finance business/engineer background, we focused a lot on the product itself rather than what this brand is or what the mission is. So we didn't really have that concept in mind. So it was just purely creating a product, seeing what people thought. That was really just the beginning of it. So we were first-time business owners. Honestly, didn't have much clue of what's happening. Hindsight 2020. We just created a product, and it's more like a pilot where we're testing out customer feedback, seeing what they thought about our product, who was purchasing, what are their opinions.
And that's what you're calling this first wave, was like a pilot where you guys could test and just lay down the bones of finding a manufacturer and actually be able to produce the product. You started having this in the hands of friends and family. What were some key learnings from that?
One key learning is a product that works somewhere else doesn't mean it will work in the area that you're in, or even to the people you think would like your product. So we did a lot of surveys. We did event to get customer feedback. Throughout the year and a half, we constantly tested our hypothesis to see if whatever we thought was the truth. And we actually ended up pivoting and changing our business model. So we just created a product.
Right.
That was about it. We thought, oh, this is amazing. You should drink it. We were so passionate about the coffee itself. But then we realized that just being a great product is the baseline. And there is so much more to it. So then we realized, oh, wow, branding and marketing is actually huge. And that's what makes and breaks your company. Because yes, our coffee format, the mini pour overs, it's special, but we are still competing with tens and thousands of other coffee brands out there.
Right.
So how do we stand out? Why would a customer buy from us rather than a coffee shop down the street? These were questions we actually went back to the drawing board to figure out. And based on all the learnings within the last 1.5 years, we pivoted and rebranded from what we had before to Hooked today.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So we were just a product before, but now we are a platform because we realized that first, people like to try a lot of different coffees. And second, our product is interesting where first, it's new to the States, so awareness is needed. But second, it's a hybrid between convenience, but also quality. So for a very functional perspective, it's not convenient enough. It's not as convenient as an instant coffee because you still have to brew it. It's the whole experience of doing it. But at the same time, it's probably not as high quality as if someone just cracked open a bag of beans, grinded it themselves, had the whole setup when it comes to like coffee enthusiasts.
Mm-hmm.
So we really had to figure out how to position ourselves, which made sense to the customer.
Got it. So product was A plus. And
Yep.
as you mentioned, that's baseline. And I mean, that takes a lot of work. That took you guys 8 or 9 months in order to get to a point where you're able to produce your first workable model of this product.
Mhm.
But it sounds like from there, you guys had to do a lot of iterations to get to a point where you had more clarity around your business model. Because eventually, were you selling single serve through e-commerce?
Yeah, we were primarily direct to consumer, and we were also in a few hotels and bakeries.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
It was still a side hustle back then, so it was limited with how much time and effort we can spend selling to, for example, a wholesale account.
So then you had to go through these steps in order to really get crisp on your branding, your
Mm.
storytelling, who you're positioning this to, what types of customers, and also just the business model. So that sounds like a lot of work, right? In order to figure out those things. At what point did you decide to no longer make this your side hustle and pursue this full time?
It's a lot of work starting a brand,
Yeah.
especially one that's consumer related. So we realized in order to scale this, we have to be serious about it.
Mm-hmm.
So my partner and I started to have conversations to see what's our goal, where do we want to take it? Do we want to have this stay as a side hustle, just a mini project, or wanting to bring this a step further?
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I was still working at Autodesk. And on a personal level, I was also figuring out if the job is right for me. Should I pivot or should I go to MBA
Mm-hmm.
or should I take Hangover Coffee, which was our old brand, full time? And I chose the last one.
And what made you make that decision?
I think it was a mixture of thinking it's now or never.
Mm-hmm.
I have this opportunity right next to me. I have been working on this for the past 6 months to 1 year.
Yeah.
Why don't I just do it?
Yeah. And that goes back to your earlier long-term why of living as a testament to just pursuing the thing that you feel called to do. So then it sounds like that's how you were able to pour your focus and resources into this rebrand and really crisping up the
Mhm.
storytelling and everything. So originally the brand was called Hangover Coffee, right?
Yes,
Which I imagine is because there's a pouch that hangs over the ends of the coffee mug.
exactly. You got the pun.
And now it's hooked coffee.
Still a pun.
Yeah, I still hear the pun. For people out there who are not familiar with the product, you mentioned that it's somewhere between instant coffee and the whole coffee setup. So, how would you describe the actual product and experience itself?
Yep. So the product is a single serve pour over coffee product. So all you need is hot water. Everything is done for you. All you have to do is hang the filter over a mug and pour hot water straight into the coffee grounds. It is fresh for 1 year. You can drink it anywhere you go. For people who don't know too much about coffee, I would equate this to as functional as a tea bag, but for
Right.
coffee
But for
itself.
coffee,
Yeah.
right. And I actually tried one of these in Asia and it was amazing. I was in an Airbnb and it feels like you have the craft
Hmm.
experience even when you're traveling. And I am one of those obnoxious people with a whole coffee get up at home. So it was great to have something that I could experience even outside of my home.
Yeah.
I'm really excited hearing about this rebrand, going from Hangover Coffee to Hooked Coffee. I know you guys are relaunching this rebrand this year. Can you tell us about it in terms of what we should expect with the rebranded version of this?
Yeah, we're really excited. It will be a subscription platform for craft coffee. So, our goal is for you to discover more about coffee and more about different roasters.
Mhm.
So, Hooked Coffee, we are working with 4 different roasters: Andy Town, Onyx, La Colombe, and Stumptown. We are super excited to have them on board with us as our partner. And as we continue on this journey, our goal is to onboard more and more roasters into our portfolio. And the goal is to have this rotating list of roasters, and you will tell us what coffee you like, and we'll provide it straight into your hands.
I've tried some of those brands. I love them. I'm also excited to try some of the ones that I haven't tried. So it sounds like if I'm interested in trying this out, do I buy directly on your website?
Yep, you can definitely buy it on our website. Our goal is also to get into a lot of hotels, short-term rentals, etc. So hopefully you will see us everywhere.
That's awesome. And what helped you come up with this whole rebrand strategy?
So when we were at events, a lot of customers started asking us where our coffee was from. And that was when we realized how much a customer cared about how their coffee was sourced and if they can trust the partner that we are working with.
Mm,
So that was a big insight for us when we were talking to our customers. And also on the other side, had roasters starting to reach out to us to see if we can work with them to pack their coffee into our pouches. So we realized, wow, it's a win-win situation where we can bring more awareness to roasters, but at the same time, provide this service to coffee drinkers who want to try a lot of different coffees.
yeah. It sounds like there's double demand from both sides. So that sounds like there could be automatic product market fit there too.
Yeah, definitely. And when it comes to working with a lot of different coffee shops or roasters, a lot of times these coffee businesses are limited geographically to where they are. So with our product, our goal is to expand their reach. So
Okay.
regardless of where you live, for example, if you live in New York, you can still have amazing coffee from San Francisco and vice versa.
Oh, so you're expanding their distribution, like in terms of customers being able to try those brands. I can try a New York brand in SF or in Florida or wherever you guys end up partnering with. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, one other comment I was gonna make about the new name. I love it because I hear the pun in terms of you hook the edges onto a coffee mug, but also because it's a subscription model. So I also hear another pun where as a consumer, I get hooked on this type of
Exactly.
coffee and I'm coming back all the time. I love that.
Yeah, that's our goal to get you hooked on coffee and specifically hooked on hooked coffee.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really excited to try it out. So, what are you most excited about in this next phase of Hooked Coffee?
Yeah, we're just excited to have people try different roasters out there. We realize there is a knowledge gap in the coffee space. So a coffee drinker will have certain expectations or certain opinions on coffee, while on the barista or the roaster side, there is so much knowledge and science behind making a cup of coffee. So in terms of a knowledge perspective, we also want to bridge that gap and be that stepping stone for more coffee drinkers to experience amazing coffee.
I could totally see that because even though I mentioned we have the whole get up at home, I don't know about coffee as much as my partner. So I always get in trouble for pouring the water too fast. And I was always one of those people that was really intimidated by snobby coffee drinkers because I started out on just the instant coffee, right? So I could totally see that being this barrier to entry for a new consumer. So that's awesome that you guys are trying to expand that reach. So coffee becomes approachable to people.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when it comes to lighter roast, which means it tends to be fruitier or in some people's eyes, more sour or acidic. It's acquired taste. And we want to bring you into the journey of tasting more interesting and complex tastes that you normally wouldn't if you're just making instant coffee or using a drip machine.
Excited to try the new brand. Thanks for talking to me about your business and the whole journey and the rebrand. Now that we chatted about Hooked Coffee and your journey with Hooked Coffee, I'd like to just pause and take some time to hear about your reflections on your journey so far. What are some top of mind reflections that come up as you look back on your entrepreneurship journey?
There's always so much to do when you're starting a business, and prioritizing and making sure you're spending the right amount of time on the right things is extremely important.
Mm-hmm. What are some ways that you've learned to prioritize one to do over another?
I follow this framework. I don't remember the name of it, but I will assess a task if it is important and urgent, only
Mm,
important, only urgent, or neither.
mm-hmm.
So based on my daily tasks, I will order it. It's called Eisenhower Matrix.
Yes,
I
thanks,
believe.
Serena, our
Yeah.
co-producer. She's smart. She knows the names of these things.
I follow that to make sure that I plan and stay on top of it as much as possible.
Got it. I feel like I need that for my life errands. That's a good way of thinking about it. Any other learnings or reflections that come to mind?
This journey will be long, so I have to always tell myself that it's not a sprint and I need to take care of myself. I tend to overwork myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I sometimes don't even realize how many hours I've been working. So
Yeah.
just unplugging sometimes, working out, taking a break
Yeah.
is extremely important.
Do you have set schedules now in order to do those things?
I do now. I didn't for the last 2 years, and I was worried that I would burn out. And
Yeah.
my friend actually was the one who told me, she's like, you are the full-time person in your job. And if you burn out, no one is there to take over what you're doing. So I always keep that in mind. And now I have a set schedule of you have to take half an hour rest here.
Oh, that's great. And
hmm
that's a really good way of putting it. This is obviously something that you're really passionate about, that you're committed to. And in order to continue to make this a success, you need to
hmm
prioritize your well-being and your health and all those things.
Yeah, definitely. So this is a year where I will try to be more intentional with how I spend my time, making sure that I am feeling the best I am
Mm-hmm.
in order to be productive.
Yeah. Do you have a guilty pleasure or something that really helps you unplug?
Honestly, I love socializing and seeing friends really helps. Last year, I was prioritizing a lot on my business, and part of my social side has fallen behind. So this year, I'm being more intentional with setting up coffee chats with people that maybe I don't know as well, but I want to build that relationship, or even just hanging out with my close friends in the Bay. Also, make sure that I work out every single day. I think that's a very good way to keep fit, but also feel good about myself.
Yeah, I imagine there's different stages of entrepreneurship. And at this stage, I can imagine it can get lonely. Like your friend said, it's a full-time job. So, yeah, that sounds like a great way to de stress, to prepare yourself mentally too for
Yes,
the long haul.
exactly.
Do you have any doubts, old or new?
When it comes to working on your own business, there are a lot of ups and downs.
Hmm.
So, entrepreneurship is also what you said, lonely. So, I always go back to the vision and what we are trying to achieve. So, each time I do that, it gives me more motivation to
Hmm.
continue on, to do the hard things or do the things that maybe I don't like as much. For example, accounting, it's not the most fun. But
Yeah.
when I'm like related back to what I'm doing and the business, suddenly it feels a lot more exciting.
Yeah. There's a greater purpose for
Mhm.
even the little minute details such as accounting. I was gonna say, do you do FIFO or LIFO? That's all I remember from accounting in business school.
Oh. Yeah, trust me, I had to Google everything again. I was like,
Um,
COGS, is COGS an expense or
yeah, cost of goods sold. It's like a lot of those things that you learn in school that you're like, am I ever gonna use this? I imagine a
uh-huh.
founder and a full-time entrepreneur, you are actually using those things that you had to learn.
Yeah.
And how have you grown through these experiences?
I've learned that not knowing everything is okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you will not know everything. So my goal for the last 1 to 2 years was to ask questions
Mm-hmm.
and not to be afraid to ask questions.
Who do you turn to when you need help in different circumstances?
So in the CPG space, there are a lot of communities, and I was surprised that the space in general is very supportive. And as long as you have a question, they are more than willing to help.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
I,
CPG is
mhm,
consumer packaged
consumer
goods.
packaged goods,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I would just reach out, ask questions. For me, I realized the worst thing that can happen is a no or an I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But through talking to people, every time I learn so much. And that opens my perspective. And that relates to what I am doing and trying to solve on a daily basis.
Right. It's actually helping you also socialize and make those connections, as you're alluding to before.
Definitely. I think it opens opportunities that you don't know would have if you didn't try.
Yeah, that's awesome. Back in the beginning, you mentioned how your mom really pushed you to not be afraid of failure. So, do you feel like you've been able to embody that now? Like, where do you think you are in terms of growing that muscle?
I'm still working on it. And like what you said, it is a muscle. So
Right.
I'll continue to practice and go for things that I feel uncomfortable about.
Mm-hmm.
I think the more I do it, the easier it will get.
Yeah. Outside looking in, sometimes it can feel like people who start their own business, it can feel like they have it all figured out. But
That's far from reality.
But you don't have to have it all figured out. You can figure it out along the way. You can ask for help. I really love that you're being transparent about that. And so, last question, let's say there's someone out there who's really interested in starting a knitting company, whatever passion they may have, even if it's not a business. What kind of advice would you have for them?
If there is a goal in mind, dissect it into smaller pieces that you're comfortable with. If you think too far ahead, like I want to be a billionaire, that's almost unachievable. But if you're able to do them, dissect them into like 100 steps, suddenly it will feel a lot easier.
Yeah. Starting from the vision and then working
Mhm.
backwards to what can I actually control and affect right now?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Awesome. I love that. That's such practical advice. Natalie, thank you so much for being with us today. It was so awesome to learn about hooked coffee.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah. Where can people learn more about your business and try some of the delicious new hooked coffee?
You can find us at brewhooked.com. You can also find us on all social medias at brewhooked. We post a lot of fun content there when it comes to coffee education, behind the scenes, even funny or troll videos.
I always love troll videos. Thanks everyone for tuning in to another episode of Be Queens. Please leave a review on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. Stay tuned for the next one. Thanks, Natalie.
Thank you.